I do see about a half a dozen folks in the list that haven't set up their names with their VCS IDs. So in order to be eligible for the raffle, you'll need to have your VCS ID in your name.
So we got that done. Now we're going here, James Vance. You were talking, see here, is this an hour and a half class?
Yes, sir.
2:30, hour and a half class. Okay, start my video here. Okay, so I'm Ricky Cloutier, and I am your host. You have a couple co-hosts. You have, see here, Bobby is a co-host, Patrick's a co-host, and it looks like Rick's still a co-host if he's in here. So we'll leave him as a co-host. And then, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat window. We'll try to carry that to the presenter. We ask that you don't interrupt the presenter during the time of them talking. We'll actually have you muted for that and no video. If he asks for attendance to talk, we will unmute you guys so you guys can actually talk. The class is an hour and a half. The co-host teaching the class is James Vance, and he is teaching on remote software, control your show from the web. So without further ado, we will turn it over to him. At 10 minutes into this meeting, we will capture everyone's names. As Patrick said earlier, make sure your number is in front of your names, because when we capture them in about 10 minutes, that's when we will start entering you into the drawing, which we will draw at the end of this with about 10 minutes to go. So if there's no questions, I'm going to turn it over to James.
All right. Thank you very much, Ricky. All right. Can everybody see the screen here?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. There you go. How about that?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. So as Ricky mentioned, this particular class, we're going to go over specifically controlling your show with Remote Falcon. And Remote Falcon has actually been around since the beginning of the year. It's been through several different updates and had some new features added. But first, a little bit about me. So I've actually been doing holiday lighting for about 5 years in some form or another. Started with an Arduino board and actually coded everything myself, and then eventually stumbled upon the world of actual controllers. And so I actually do it the easier way now. I've been a software engineer for about 10 years. And it's actually what funds this addictive hobby that we all have. And I also do other things than lighting. So I also do music and OCR, which is obstacle course racing, more specifically Ninja Warrior style. And so that's a little bit about me. So what is Remote Falcon? So Remote Falcon is an online tool that allows you to remotely control both Falcon Player and Xschedule. So with Remote Falcon, you can create a custom viewer page that gives your viewers control over your show. You can allow them to request sequences using a Jukebox style or by voting. And then once all those requests or votes have been gathered in play, then your normal schedule will actually resume. And we'll be going into more of how Remote Falcon works in detail. And so kind of the agenda with that is to go over how to sign up for it, First of all, where to find it and how to sign up, and then how to configure the plugin in Falcon Player. And then setting up your custom viewer page so that your viewers will actually have some place to go to view your sequences and submit their voting and request. And then modifying your viewer control settings. So changing it from allowing them to do jukebox style or voting style, and some different settings that you can do. And so with that, I'm just going to go straight into a demo of it. And can everybody still see the screen here? It looks like you can. So this is actually the Remote Falcon website, and you can get to it just by going to remotefalcon.com. When I originally made this, it was intended to work with Falcon Player, but it does also work with Xschedule, but I didn't feel like changing the name, so it is still called Remote Falcon. And kind of the brief summary I went through outlines the same thing on this page. But to sign up is pretty straightforward. So you would actually put in the name of your show, and I'm actually going to walk through the entire setup as if it was a new user. And so we're going to call this the VCS show. And whatever you put into here is what your show name will be. It's not you're not stuck with it. Once you make it, you can change it later on, which I'll show an example of that in a little bit. So I'm going to put in my email and an address, and then we got to make sure that you're not a robot. And then once you have that filled out, then you can click register. And to make sure that I just don't get bombarded with fake signups, I do send out a verification email. So you can see here, I got an email from Remote Falcon with a great Christmas movie, Die Hard. And from the email, you simply click verify email, and it takes you back to Remote Falcon and sends you back to the same page that you left off on. Now from here, since we've already registered, we can simply sign in to our control panel, and you sign in using the same email address you registered with. And if you happen to have forgot your password, then just putting in your email and clicking here will send you a link to reset it. So we're going to go ahead and sign in. And this will be the first thing that you land on when you sign in to the page. So this landing page is the dashboard. And I'll come back to this later, actually, after we've actually done some things. But the dashboard is going to outline how many people have visited your custom page, how many requests you've had by date or by sequence, or how many votes. And so we see we have several options up here, including a dark theme, because we all know dark themes are better. So I'm just going to turn that on. And here's the name of your show. And underneath your show, there will be a URL, which is the show name that you entered, .remotefalcon.com. Now, clicking that will open up this default page that kind of outlines the things that you can do with this page. Now, this page is what the viewer will actually go to in order to submit requests or vote on your sequences. So right now, you notice we don't have any sequences in here, and there's really nothing here other than just a static page. So kind of the first step to do is to come back in Remote Falcon, and in this header, it shows the steps to actually install the plugin for Falcon Player. So when you click on this, then this will actually outline what you need to do to get this set up in Falcon Player. So there is a little bit of configuration that has to happen. If you're running the latest version of Falcon Player, which is 4 or up, then the plugin will already be included in the plugins list. If you are not running version 4, then you will need to manually install it, or manually put this link in to get the plugin. And then the other thing is this remote token. So this is what you will use to put into Falcon Player that will let Remote Falcon know who you are. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and then head over to Falcon Player. And so we're going to run through the actual setup and configuration of Remote Falcon in Falcon Player. So under Content Setup, if we go to Plugin Manager, then all the way at the bottom, we can see there is Remote Falcon. So to install this plugin, you simply click this down arrow and it shows that it's installing the plugin. It's done. So we close the window. And now you can see it's listed on the top as an installed plugin. And under each one of these tabs, you'll notice Remote Falcon shows up as the plugin. So heading over to the plugin page, this is a simple 5-step process on setting up Falcon Player to work with Remote Falcon. This here will show you if the plugin is up to date. So occasionally I'll put in new features and update the plugin, and so this will let you know if you have the latest version. Now, step 1 is to put in your remote token, and that is the same one that we copied from here. So we're going to place that in this text box and then click Save Token. And you'll get a little success message that says the remote token was successfully saved. And so step 1 is done. So moving on to step 2, this is where you can actually pick which playlist you want to sync with the Remote Falcon application. For me, I had 2 playlists created. So I have one that is a show playlist that would run just as my normal show on my normal schedule. And then I have another playlist that was created called Viewer Control Stuff. And inside this playlist, I have each sequence that I want the viewer to be able to request or vote on. So then back in the Remote Falcon plugin, I'm actually going to select the Viewer Control Stuff and click Sync Playlist. And this will actually send those playlist details to Remote Falcon. And then finally on step 3, this toggle is actually what allows Remote Falcon to work. So I give you the power to turn it on or turn it off at your discretion. But in order for Falcon Player to reach out and retrieve requests or votes from your user, this does have to be toggled on. So we turn it on and then we click Save Toggle, and you can see it's been updated. And if we refresh the page, we can see it's still selected there. Step 4 is to restart Falcon Player. And so we'll go ahead and do that now. All right, and you can see it's been restarted, and step 5 is profit. That's always the last step. So heading back to Remote Falcon here, up in the menu bar here, you'll notice the Sequences tab. And so now you can see all of the sequences that were part of that viewer control playlist is now on Remote Falcon. So staying on this sequences item here just for a little bit. We have the sequence name, and this sequence name is exactly how it looks in your playlist, but it may not be exactly how you want it to look to the user. And so you can change the name of the sequence, how it appears to the user on your page. And so I'm actually going to update one of these, and then we'll be able to see it in a few minutes when we cover the viewer page. So I changed the name of the sequence, and so I click Save Sequence Names, and it actually updates the display name. Another option over here is whether or not you want this sequence to be visible to the user. If you don't want it to be visible to the user, then you probably wouldn't add it to your playlist. But if you don't want them to see it, then you simply click the icon, and it will hide that particular sequence from the user, from the viewer. So now we're going to go ahead and switch gears over to the viewer custom page. So the idea behind Remote Falcon was to have a place where users could customize their page however they wanted, and kind of retrofit it to have any sort of color schemes or layouts. And so this is exactly where you can do it. When you come to this page, you have the option to download the HTML for customization. So when you click on this, it'll actually download the HTML file to your computer, and you can edit this file however you want. If you don't know HTML, there are a lot of helpful resources online that are listed in the actual default file. And we do also provide a decent looking or pretty nice looking default HTML file that you can customize and make it however you want. If you do already have a custom file uploaded, then it will download that one. Or if you want a fresh start, you can always download the default template again. But once you're done customizing, then you click the button, and then you can upload your file to Remote Falcon. So when you do that, you can open up your personal show here, and any changes that you see to your HTML file will be reflected here. All right, so we have our HTML file uploaded, and so now we're ready to start looking into some viewer settings. So when you first sign up, under the viewer settings tab, the viewer control will be turned off by default. And what this toggle is for is if you wanted to use this web page throughout the year as your normal show website, then you can do that and just turn off the viewer control portion of it. But if we turn on the viewer control, then we notice there's a lot of options that show up here. But if we go back to our viewer page and then refresh, I'm sorry. Anytime you make changes, you got to click Save Changes. So that's the important part. And so if we go back to our page and we refresh it, now we see we have some elements that have shown up here. And so we have what's now playing, what's coming up next, and then our queue size. And then when we scroll down, we can see that we have these three sequences here. So as you can see, the one that we hid from the viewer does not show up. And then also the one that we renamed to BOI is how it shows up to the user, to the viewer. And so if we wanted to unhide Mary, did you know, and then refresh the page, and now it shows up in our list. So it gives you control over what the viewer sees and what they're actually able to interact with. Now back on the viewer settings. So there are some defaults that show up. And so I'll run through each one of these and what they mean and how you can use them. So this message display time, as it says, it controls how long the status message shows up on your viewer page. So when a viewer actually comes to your page and they click on a song, then there's a banner that shows up that says whether or not the sequence was successfully added to a queue or voted on, or if there was some sort of issue adding their song to the queue, which we'll also cover in a second. So the default on that is 3 seconds. You can change it to whatever you want. I wouldn't recommend doing anything like a crazy amount, but that's what this option allows you to do to kind of further customize your viewer control page. So more importantly here, we have our viewer control mode. And so we can see here how each one of those work. So the 2 modes that Remote Falcon is able to do is Jukebox and Voting. So Jukebox is pretty much exactly how it sounds. So a viewer comes to your website and they select a song, and that song will get added to a queue, and the Falcon player will pull from that pull the next song from the queue in the order in which they were requested. And the same song cannot be selected twice in a row, so that will prevent people from trying to kind of bomb a particular sequence in your show. The next method is voting. So this one can get a little more confusing. But what voting allows your viewers to do is, what it says is vote on what playlist or sequence they want to hear next. So I could read through this, but it's a lot easier to just walk through it. But first, we're going to go through the actual jukebox mode. So when jukebox is selected, you will have this option to modify your jukebox queue depth, and this controls how much your jukebox queue can hold. So if you don't mind your queue getting up to 100 requests, which you can see here, there's somehow already 3 requests on this particular show. If you don't mind it getting up to an unlimited number, then you can leave it at 0. But if you want to limit the number of sequences that can be queued up at any given time, then you just specify that number here. So if you only wanted 5 sequences at most queued up at a time, then you put in 5 and then save your changes, and it'll change it to that. Another option, this applies for both jukebox and voting, is check viewer location. So this is kind of it's kind of a checks and balances to make sure that if your show is in Florida, somebody in California is not over there clicking a bunch of buttons on your site. So what happens when you actually turn this on, it will ask for your location. So the very first time you do this, you'll probably get something that says, is Remote Falcon allowed to use your location? And so if you say yes to that, then it grabs your current location. This is pretty precise, so please don't hunt me down. And then when you turn this option on, another field will show up that says essentially how far away from this location are you okay with viewers being in order to make a request. So it defaults to half a mile. So if my viewer is half a mile away from here, then they'll be allowed to interact with the show and place a request. You can bump it down to 0.1 mile. It's probably a good idea if you're using this to play around with how accurate the location is for you, because I have heard some scenarios where the location in the browser actually shows 100 miles from where they actually are. And so that's why kind of playing with this can allow you to pinpoint that location. And so once you have that set, then you can save your changes. But for demo purposes, I'm just going to leave this turned off. Okay, so let's actually run through how Jukebox works in Remote Falcon and also in the Falcon player. So as you can see, there's already 3 requests queued up here. And you may have noticed that those, it's been at 3 requests, so it hasn't dropped down to 2. And that is because Falcon player will only reach out to Remote Falcon for viewer requests if your schedule is running. So right now I don't have a schedule running. And so Falcon player is not pulling any requests from Remote Falcon. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in here, and I have a schedule that just runs all day. And I'm going to save that and then head on over to the status page. So right now, the schedule started playing. And I'm going to go ahead and purge those 3 requests. So this button down here actually allows you to remove all of the requests from your Jukebox queue at any given time that you'd like. Okay, so right now we have a show playing right now. And if we head over to Remote Falcon, then we can see that Little Drummer Boy is playing, and then up next is White Christmas. And so let's just make sure that. Just make sure we have the all right. Okay. So it looks like it's not actually pulling in the request there. So let me. All right. Well, let's just pretend that actually worked. I'm not real sure why this didn't pull in the. Let me do something here actually. All right. Well, it's a great day to have issues with the Falcon plugin. Okay. Well, I guess we'll run through kind of the rest of the website here and our other methods. So with Jukebox, this is kind of the default layout that you get. So it'll just be your list of sequences, and it will show what's currently playing, and then what song is actually up next, and the queue size. And this is what will actually display to your viewer while they're on your page. So taking a look at voting, so there are a few more options that show up when you select the voting method. And so one of the options here is whether or not you actually want to reset your votes after the votes have been gathered. If you leave this off, then votes will actually persist from one round to the next. And the way the voting rounds work is the first vote that comes in while your schedule is playing will automatically be played. While that voted sequence is playing, any vote that comes in after that will be tallied up. And at the end of that winning sequence, then the next winning vote will be gathered, and it just keeps continuing from round to round. If you do want to reset the votes after the winning sequence is completed, then when the winning votes are gathered, then all votes will get reset back to 0, and it essentially starts over again. And then also the ability to prevent multiple votes. So this option, if turned on, would prevent the same user from mashing the same sequence and trying to run up the votes on that particular song. So saving the changes with the voting method turned on, when we refresh our default page, you can see it changed the layout on the page. So now, instead of just being a list, we've already got votes coming in. You can see that we now have each sequence and the number of votes for that particular sequence. And also, so anytime you change your control mode in Remote Falcon, then you do need to restart Falcon Player. And so we'll see. Let's see if we can have a little bit of luck here with the voting. Okay, so it looks like the voting kicked in there. So as you can see, since I have reset votes after sequence turned off, Mary, did you know, I haven't been able to keep up, I assume was the winning sequence from the last one. And so now, okay, so now that Carol of the Bells is in the lead, I can't keep up with you guys. Now that Carol of the Bells is in the lead, I'm going to go ahead and stop this one. And then Falcon Player should reach out for the next winning sequence, which looks like we're going to have the same technical issue on voting as well. So that's fun. But when Falcon Player would pull in Carol of the Bells with 16 votes, Carol of the Bells would actually be removed from the list while it's playing. So that prevents the same sequence also from winning multiple rounds. So we do remove it from the list, and then there will only be 3 sequences in the song that would actually get voted on. So I'd like to try to figure out what's going on with this plugin. So I am actually going to uninstall it here real quick. So you'll get to see it. You'll get to see it twice. Okay, so let's do this different. So I'm actually going to switch over to my remote Falcon page, which I do know is working. So one last thing, actually, before I sign out of this one, you can also reset all the votes. So you can see our votes here. And so if I reset all of those, then it will clear out all of the votes for those sequences. So let's go ahead and sign back in. All right. So this also kind of gives us a good example of our dashboard that we land on. So here you can see how many unique visitors I've had to this page. So it's mostly around 1, sometimes 2. And then the date that was on, and then also total page visits. And then you can view how many jukebox requests you've had by date, and then also by sequence. And so this could kind of give you an idea of how many of what the most popular sequences are. And then how many total votes you've had by date and by sequence as well, if you're using the voting method. So then also under account settings, you do have the ability to change your show name. If you do change the name of your show, it will also change the this URL. So if I added an S to the end of this, then it will also add an S to the end of the URL. So your show name and your viewer page name will always match. Also, you can change your password, or you can delete your account if you're just fed up with the plugin not working. So I'm going to actually set that plugin back up with my stuff here. All right. So for me, I actually I believe I have jukebox mode set up here. And well, it looks like that plugin isn't actually wanting to work there. So All right, so that's definitely something that I'll need to look at. So not real sure why I'm having that issue right now. So all right, so heading back to Remote Falcon side here, there also is a FAQ area where you can see the steps on how to set up the plugin, and also if you have issues with that, like if you which I need to update the verbiage there, but if you click the sequences and it says shows an error, or if you're having problems getting the plugin, and also something that's new here for those of you who are on the call who may already have a Remote Falcon account. So I did recently add some Falcon player stats as well. And so what this kind of displays in a not so pretty format just yet is your current Falcon player status and your FPPD status as well, temperature, volume, what's currently playing, and then also your scheduled playlist, which as you can see here, it's just show that runs all day. So yeah, I think I've covered just about everything that Remote Falcon is capable of. I know I usually have quite a few questions, and so I guess if we wanted to turn it over for questions, I'd be okay with that.
One question I have for you is, so if somebody were to make a selection of a song, you're in the middle of my sequence of songs, does it start back at the beginning of my playlist, or will it continue where it cut in?
Yeah, good question. So when a request comes in and that request or that voted sequence finishes, your normal schedule will resume where it left off. So in the past, it did start over from the beginning, but a change was made so that your wherever it left off when that request came in is where it will pick up when the request ends.
Okay, now follow up on that. Is it going to be in the middle of a song at the same time as well, or will it start at the beginning of that song then?
It will pick up exactly where it left off to the second. Yeah. Okay. So if a request came in here with 45 seconds left, when the request is done, it will begin at 45 seconds. It is a bit jarring, depending on where in the sequence it picks back up. But I know it was a bit more difficult, having to have that particular sequence start completely over from the beginning.
Why is FPP showing 2 sequences in show, but when you go to the remote voter list, it shows 4 sequences?
So that is because I actually have 2 playlists. So I have the show, which has 2 sequences in it, and this is what would normally be running on my normal schedule, and that's what you're seeing in Falcon Player. And then I have a playlist that is just the stuff that I want to sync with Remote Falcon that the viewers can actually control. So that's why you see these 4 in Remote Falcon. But my show is what's actually running right now, which only has these 2 sequences.
In your setup, you keep selecting show, not viewer control stuff.
Let me try that here. Yeah. So that's what's the viewer control is the one that was synced with Remote Falcon here. It does. So yeah. So this drop down, after it refreshes, it defaults back to the first option. Yes, so that's why that was kind of confusing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you configure it so it doesn't stop a song in the middle, so it'll finish the song first before the voter or jukebox starts playing?
Yeah, and that's actually something that has come up a few times, and I've considered adding an option for that. I guess the only kind of hesitation I had was if a viewer pulls up and there's, for the case of my show, I get a baker's dozen every night. So if somebody pulls up and they go to the website and they request a song and then they have to sit there until the sequence is over, it doesn't kind of seem fair. If you request a song or if you vote on a song and you were the first one there, then you should get to listen to it immediately. But that's probably something I'll add as an option, because I know a lot of people didn't like the idea of any interruptions at all during their show.
So think about this scenario. So you have somebody that's sitting there watching the show. They like the song that's playing, so they don't vote. Somebody pulls up 5 minutes into the song, they vote, and the song that's playing gets shut off. So now you're forcing people to have to vote.
So, okay, if a viewer request is playing, or if a song that was voted on is playing, it does not get interrupted at all. It will finish the entire sequence before it fetches the next request or winning vote.
Yeah, but if somebody pulls up and the song that they want to hear is playing, they're not going to vote for it. They're going to just sit there and listen to it.
Yeah.
But somebody else pulls up and they want to play a different song. Now they're going to vote, and it's going to interrupt what's currently playing for the first person that was there that didn't need to vote.
Right, and then when that next song comes up, then they would have the ability to vote on the first one. But yeah, we didn't want to actually. The reason we remove the song from the list if it wins that round of voting is to prevent those very popular ones from just being endlessly played, right? So we want the viewer to be able to cycle through and have the ability or the option to listen to all of them. And so we didn't want a scenario where a viewer could just single out a particular sequence.
So no Baby Shark
But-
nonstop?
As much as David might like that, no.
So if a song is currently playing on a regular playlist, is that available for somebody to vote on?
If you want it to be, yeah. If it's added to whatever playlist you choose to sync with Remote Falcon, then yes. So you can see here I have my normal show playlist, Little Drummer Boy, Mary Did You Know? But then also those same two sequences are part of, are part of my viewer control as well. If you didn't want them to be in there, then you could remove them from the playlist.
No, I'm saying is if while the show is playing,
Mhm.
the options that the viewer can select on the Remote Falcon, can they select the song that is currently playing?
Oh, yes. Sorry, misunderstood the question. Yes. So if Little Drummer Boy is playing as part of the normal show, then yes, they can still request Little Drummer Boy.
No, will that just finish it, or will that start it back over for another round of Little Drummer Boy?
It would start it back over again. Yep.
And then finish it partway through too.
Yep. So you get it halfway through the whole thing, and then the last half.
Yeah, I could see that being problematic. I would want mine to finish, and then whatever voted or jukebox plays.
Right, and that's why I mentioned providing the option in either jukebox or voting mode to allow the current playing sequence, regardless of whether it's part of the normal schedule or a request, to allow that to finish through before the request actually plays.
You say that it is an option, or it may become an option.
Well, it's not an option now, but it will become an option. Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
I got one song that everyone really likes. It's an Ohio State fight song one, and kind of like that same thing. It could be partially through. Someone may hate it, jump out of it, or someone may like it and request it, but then it goes back to it to finish it up again at the same time.
Right. Yep.
Now,
Yeah,
I'm
totally
kind of
understandable.
wondering too, when you said it removes it from the voting list, does it remove it until all other songs have been played, or how long is it removed for?
It only removes. So if I change this back to voting. So if Little Drummer Boy wins and begins playing, it gets removed from the list. Once it's done playing, it gets added back. So it's only excluded from the list while it's playing.
Gotcha. So it won't play twice in a row, but it could be a different song, then play again.
Exactly. Yes.
You
Okay.
could have two songs alternating back and forth.
You could potentially, yeah. But that's kind of another reason to put prevent multiple votes. That could maybe curb some of that voting of the same thing over and over.
I think one thing I might do, because I do like this option being in there, is I might remove it on like Friday and Saturday nights on the busy nights to not let it be so problematic, but give more of the option on Monday through Thursday type deal.
Okay. Yeah. So,
Now, are you running this on a website and then pointing it at the Falcon control or the Falcon player for the web page?
yeah. So I guess if anybody's kind of interested in a little bit of background of what this is actually doing. So when a viewer makes a request, then that request just goes to my database, and Falcon player actually reaches out to Remote Falcon. I think I have it set at every 4 seconds, and it checks for a new request. And so when it finds a new request, then it begins playing it. And so that's literally what the plugin does, is via that unique token that you put in here. So this is how it knows to communicate specifically with your show. It goes out and it finds your specific sequence.
But it's running from like Remote Falcon.
Which part?
The because I just kind of was signing in to Remote Falcon, and it's asking me for a domain name
and. When you sign into Remote Falcon?
Yeah, when I set up my account, and then the first time I logged in, it asked me for a domain name of the light show. I'm guessing like yours is Driftwood Lights.
When was this?
When
how long ago? How long ago was that?
This was just now.
Oh, okay. And you're at remotefalcon.com?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So when you sign up, when signing in, it's just your email and password that you use to sign up for the site. And then it should take you directly to that main page.
Click here if you're already registered for control panel, and that's when I get an email and a password. Oh. So what website, I guess, does your viewers go to vote, right? That's where I'm
right. So when you log in, it's directly underneath the show name on the main page. So for example, my show name's Driftwood Light Show. And so it would be driftwoodlightshow.remotefalcon.com is actually the site that the viewers would go to.
It's a subsite of remotefalcon.com. It's not your own
Correct.
site. You don't have to maintain anything.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's also a good point. It is free. So yeah,
you.
and yeah. So yeah, so it does create a subdomain of Remote Falcon, and that is what your viewers would actually go to place requests.
I got a question for you from like the viewer standpoint, sitting out on the road. If you put a large scan IQ code up on like a P5 panel at a distance, do you think it would recognize something like that to where it could link right to it, or do you think that'd probably be too?
Actually, there's been quite a few people who said that they were thinking about going the QR route. I haven't heard anything about putting it on a P5. I'm not quite sure.
I'd be surprised if the resolution was good enough.
Yeah,
my P5 is a 4 foot by 6 foot, but it's probably 75 to 100 feet from the roadway, so it's kind of a
I'm
give and
pretty
take.
sure it would work. If you use a QR code that has a ton of different, if you use the big QR code that has all the error protection in it, it'll most likely work.
Well, don't forget too that like those cameras have a hard time autofocusing at night when the distance, so it may not be able to pick it up as well.
Okay. Yeah. The other thing I might do is, I guess an option could be you have to pay for it obviously, but like set up a short code, I guess maybe, where they text the word Christmas to a phone number and get the link coming back to them.
Or set up a bit.ly.
So it looks like I don't know if this question was asked about having any ports open on the firewall. No, that shouldn't be necessary. And I mean, everything in Remote Falcon, like firewall and access related is all set up. So as long as Falcon Player has access to the internet, then you shouldn't have any issues getting it to work with Remote Falcon.
I suspect people are worried about the long name, having to have people type in the long name and looking for a way to do shorter names.
Right. Yeah, and that's understandable. Nobody wants to have to type in a giant web page.
Can you do a bit.ly link?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, bit.ly, tiny URL. I think any of those would work.
By chance, do you know of any free short code setups, like where you text the word like Christmas to a phone number and get those for free or anything?
I personally do not. The only one that I'm I can't even say I'm familiar with it. The only one I know about is Twilio, but I know for sure that's not free.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've got one, but it's not free either. It's $25 for, I guess, 3 months. So I guess if you wanted to pay that, you could do that then.
Right. So it looks like somebody asked about Xschedule. So about 15 minutes before this presentation started, my primary computer decided to blue screen on me. And so I had to rush and get my my other computer, which does not have X-Lights on it, unfortunately. But in Xschedule, Remote Falcon is located under the plugins menu item. And when you enable Remote Falcon, it will pull up a log screen. And in that screen, if you click, I believe it's edit, that is where you enter your remote token and select which playlist you would like to sync with Remote Falcon. And that's all you have to do from Xschedule. So configuration wise, it's pretty similar to how Falcon Player works. Yes, Keith did do a video on that. So it's all HTTP to answer Frank's question.
Real quick, one other question. I'm trying to think of like doing a system as you've seen on like Great Christmas Light Fight, where someone pushes a button or pulls a lever to start the show.
Huh?
If I have that set up at the beginning, would it get screwy, I guess, having the jukebox available as well? Or maybe what would be kind of the best avenue, I guess, maybe?
I guess it depends. If your schedule is running and your viewer control is turned on, then anybody can come in here and place a request and it'll get picked up by Remote Falcon, or I'm sorry, by Falcon Player.
That won't happen until the given time frame, correct?
That won't happen unless your actual schedule is running.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't have a schedule running, then if you just have a sequence that's running on demand or that you've started manually, it won't get interrupted by Remote Falcon.
I gotcha. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Message queues to enable or disable Remote Falcon. Possibly. It's not impossible. I suppose you could do it. The enabling and disabling of, okay. So if you wanted to use MQTT to control this toggle here, then that would be simple to do. If you wanted to use it to control this one here, not so much. Because really all this is doing, whenever you say enable remote FPP, it's literally just, it's on a file within the plugin that says you turned this on. I haven't done, I've worked with like RabbitMQ and stuff like that before, and MQTT, but not direct integration with Remote Falcon.
And to run it for a schedule that, like I was talking about, if you didn't run it on like a Saturday or Sunday, you wouldn't necessarily have to turn it off. You just would not enable the schedule that is linked to the end user, the viewer, selecting a song then. So if they select one on a Saturday, it just wouldn't do anything. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, you wouldn't have to actually come in here and manually turn this off to remove the playlist. It's just when your queue might get out of control if you have it set to unlimited, or your votes might get out of control, but none of them will actually start unless the schedule is playing.
I got you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the Remote Falcon website there, is there any other customization, if you click back on that like we can change, I guess, adding logos, changing things, or is it literally just kind of changing the name of the show and that's it?
On the actual viewer page?
Yeah, right here, like where the Falcon is at and stuff. What all can be actually modified on that one for us to change?
So someone actually, I think someone actually asked if I could open that up. So I'll go ahead and do that. All right, can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I don't know if Chris Quinn is on the call or around, but he's actually the one who, disclaimer, I suck at HTML and design. So he's actually the one who built this default template that gets created. So there are essentially how Remote Falcon does this is there's tags that are put into the HTML file, such as a now playing tag or a next playlist tag. Obviously the only thing I ask is that there's you don't add any sort of JavaScript to this, because the things, it could get hairy if you do. So as you can see with the now playing, it's simply a tag here. And what Remote Falcon does whenever it loads up your custom site is it replaces all of this with the actual value. So whatever's playing on FPP, it replaces this with what's playing. As far as customization goes, you do whatever you want with this file. Modify the CSS, add your logos. There is one caveat that somebody mentioned, and it's around image hosting. So if you want to put an image on Remote Falcon, you got to have somewhere to put it and reference it. So as you can see here, my main logo is actually on my Remote Falcon site. And so if you do use an image, then you'll need someplace to put it. Other than that, I mean, really, if you can do it in CSS and HTML, then do whatever you need. The only thing you need to make sure is that things like this, this one that shows the on-demand, it still says on-demand, but jukebox and voting, or the voting container, or the jukebox container, like these things can't be messed with, otherwise it might mess up how the site renders. And then also, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. These request successful, request failed, and request playing. So this is actually something I forgot to cover. In jukebox mode, if you have your jukebox depth set to 5, and somebody places a request that exceeds that limit, then a yellow box will show up that essentially says the queue. You can word this however you want, but essentially says the queue is full. And that's because they've essentially reached your max allowed number of sequences in the queue. And then also already voted. So if somebody tries to vote twice on the same thing, it'll tell them you can only vote once. And that's only if you have it turned on. And so these things are things that kind of need to stay in place. You can style it however you want. But this particular element right here has to be there in order for those message banners to work.
That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, I've seen some pretty unique and pretty impressive customizations out there. And so, yeah, really, if you can do it in CSS and HTML, then you can make it however you want. Let me look through. Say the show ends and there are songs in queue when show starts next night. Good question. Yes, it will. That may call for an option to do a nightly purge of your jukebox queue and votes. So that's actually a very good call out, and I haven't thought of that before. So yeah, so if you still have requests in your queue, when your show ends, your schedule ends for the night, when it picks back up the next day, or whenever it starts again, then it will start pulling those requests that were left over from the night before. Unless you manually purge it here in Remote Falcon. Can I add what's playing to my own website? Okay, so a little bit hesitant to show this, but there is, not everybody will see this, but there is an API that I've created that will allow you to add this to your own website if you want to. I'm trying to figure out ways to do this without it becoming a gigantic cost, I guess. Is the best way to put it. I think I have worked with a couple people where they have essentially everything that you see here, like what's playing, the ability to make requests, adding it to your own website and your own domain. That will be soon to come. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to make that secure and in a way kind of prevent abuse of the API. So
Quick, no, you have about 10 minutes left.
okay. Let's see. Is API a REST? Yes, it's a REST call. For anybody interested, this is everything here is React.js, and everything on the backend portion of it is Node.js, and all of it is hosted on actually my own private server. So I never really have to worry about downtime or sharing any resources with anybody, and it's scalable. So if there's a lot of traffic going to the site, it'll automatically scale, so you don't have to worry about viewers not being able to access API keys. Yeah, that's something I'm looking into as well. Does it only allow voting during your show times? Yep. Well, they can vote at any time. If it's on the page, they can vote, but it'll only get played if your show is actually running. Take donations for requests. Wow. Okay. That's a good one. So I guess you're saying in order to place a request, you gotta donate. People can rack up votes all day before the show. Yeah, I guess there's nothing stopping them. So one thing that I was going to add, I guess real quick, and I'll probably make this the last question, was a schedule for your viewer page. And this would essentially be, think of it as a like a scheduled toggle. So at 6 p.m. viewer control would turn on, and at 10:30 p.m. it would shut off. I was going to add that, but I was a little bit hesitant because you maintain your schedule in Falcon Player, and then you would have to come over here and maintain a schedule in Remote Falcon. But if there's enough concern, which is a valid concern, about people placing in requests and voting on songs before the show actually starts, then that sounds like something that could definitely be done easily. Go back to could it follow FPP schedule? Yeah, actually, that's a great idea. It could definitely follow that. The only kind of tricky part would be if you have multiple show schedules set up. I guess trying to determine which one to use, but yeah, that's a good call out.
One thing I see a potential problem with is if you have to have multiple announcements of, like, say, turn off your headlights or not park in people's driveways and stuff, this could bypass a lot of that.
Yeah, and for those who actually had Remote Falcon earlier, before it actually did before it would actually sync every playlist, and you picked which one the viewer saw. And so within that playlist, you could have multiple sequences, or a something saying turn off headlights, or basic light viewing etiquette. But with the latest change, it actually just does the sequences from the playlist. I've been trying to think through that because I know several people have had a request about that, and saying, like, if after every 3 requests, it could have that play. I mean, that's something that I'm thinking through, because I know that's me personally, I don't have anything like that, but I know a lot of people do. But that's yeah, that's a very good call out. Okay, and just real quick. So the email, which is actually at the bottom of the website, as well as the Facebook group, feedback@remotefalcon.com. The Facebook group is a great place to be. There's a lot of people in there who are smarter than I am, have a lot of great ideas, and so it's a place to bounce off any sort of questions or feature requests, whatever you might have.
Anything else, or is that pretty much it? Do we want to go into? It's a little early still for giveaway. Any other questions?
I definitely appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about it here.
Thank you very much for giving it.
Yes, Dan. Thank you very much. Great presentation. You're getting a lot of thank yous in the column over here. I guess we'll go to raffle time. Let's see here. Let's go share screen. Okay. You guys all see this?
Yep.
Okay, so this one was today's, let's see here. It's Light 'em Up Sequences is who sponsored this class. They are giving away a 1 full sequence, and we are going to go ahead and let it randomly pick. Click the button and see here. It's like 13:35 here.
He's on.
He's on?
Yes,
Yep.
he is.
Okay, so Scott Cross won a full sequence from Light 'em Up Sequences. And I can stop sharing. Go back to here. Stop YouTube.